I'm Crystal. The room fell into an eerie silence as the TV screen displayed my face, larger than life, standing in front of the United Nations building, flanked by world leaders and heads of humanitarian organizations. The anchor's voice boomed, unprecedented achievement. At just age Dr. Crystal Lee has revolutionized global health infrastructure in developing nations, creating sustainable systems that have provided clean water and medical access to over 50 million people across 3 continents. I stood there, holding a plate, my mind flashing back to how I'd been treated earlier that evening. It was the annual Lee family reunion, a gathering I'd once dreaded and later accepted with a sense of resignation. My family came from a well-to-do background. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Lee, were part of the upper-middle-class society. My father was a traditional man, always eager to show off the family's success to relatives. My mother, on the other hand, was more concerned about what others thought of us as a family. As I arranged the china plates around the mahogany dining table, I could hear my mother on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice took on that tone she reserved for explaining away my so-called failures. Yes, Crystal's here. She's between opportunities right now. You know how the job market is these days. I set down the last plate and moved to the silverware drawer, the familiar rhythm of setting the table soothing my nerves. My sister, Lily, breezed in, exuding an air of confidence and luxury. She was a successful corporate lawyer, always dressed in the latest designer clothes. Is she actually helping? She asked, her voice dripping with disdain. My mother half-heartedly chided her, but there was no real reproach in her words. When my father emerged from his study, his smile faltered slightly when he saw me. Crystal, good you're here early. Listen, when people ask what you're doing these days, maybe just say you're consulting. It sounds better than nothing. I tried to explain that I wasn't doing nothing, but he waved it off, saying my little projects might sound like unemployment to others. Relatives started arriving, and with each one came the same question, so, Crystal, what are you up to these days? Before I could answer, my parents would jump in with their euphemisms. She's taking some time to figure things out, my mother would say. Still exploring her options, my father would add. Lily worked the room like a politician on a campaign. She boasted about her recent high-profile case, positioning herself near me to create a stark contrast. It's such a demanding role, but the impact is worth it, she said, glancing at me. Not everyone can handle this kind of pressure. Cousin Tom, who had just closed a big real estate deal, joined the conversation. Success requires taking risks. Too many people play it safe and wonder why nothing happens, he declared. Lily nodded in agreement, adding, some people are just afraid of real responsibility. I excused myself to check on the food. In the kitchen, I overheard Aunt Grace and my mother talking. Have you thought about suggesting something concrete? Maybe a part-time job at a store, Aunt Grace said. My mother sighed wearily. We've tried. She just talks about her work, but nothing seems to come of it. I think she might be depressed. Back in the living room, the reunion was in full swing. Lily gathered an audience and started talking about her connections. Just last week, I had lunch with a top-tier corporate executive. That's the kind of company successful people keep, she said proudly. Uncle Henry, who had just arrived, asked, where's Crystal working now? The room went quiet. Lily's smile turned sharp. My father quickly said, she's on a bit of a sabbatical, taking time to reassess her goals. Uncle Henry looked genuinely concerned. Some people are late bloomers, Lily said sweetly, but there was an edge to her words. Laughter rippled through the group. At dinner, I was seated between Aunt May and Uncle George. Uncle George asked, so, Crystal, what do you do with your time these days? Lily snorted from across the table. On what? Your imaginary projects. I simply said, I consult. Lily mocked me, consult? On what exactly? How to avoid employment. The table fell silent as all eyes turned to me. I took a sip of water and asked for the potatoes. Lily threw up her hands. See, no ambition, no fight. My father changed the subject, and dinner continued with a forced sense of normalcy. After dinner, as I was clearing the plates, I overheard Tom talking in the living room. The economy's tough, but winners find a way. They network and make things happen. The people who fail are the ones who give up and make excuses. Lily added, Crystal's not even making excuses anymore. She's just accepted being a loser. Aunt May found me in the kitchen, her face full of concern. Crystal, honey, can we talk? I'm worried about you. You're so isolated, no career, no social life. It's not healthy. Have you thought about seeing a therapist? I tried to tell her I was fine, but she insisted I wasn't. Just then, Aunt Grace rushed in, her face flushed with excitement. Turn on the TV, everyone, in the living room now. We all gathered in the living room, and there I was on the screen. As the news anchor continued to praise my work, the room was filled with shock and disbelief. Uncle George was the first to find his voice. That's you, Crystal. I nodded calmly. My mother whispered, You're Person of the Year, Time Magazine Person of the Year. I set down the plate and said, It's just a title. My father pulled out his phone, his hands shaking as he typed. There are dozens of articles. The New York Times, Washington Post, BBC, they're all covering this. Lily's face went pale. You've been working all this time? Consulting? You consult with governments, NGOs, and international organizations on sustainable infrastructure development? Cousin Tom scrolled through his phone, his eyes widening. You have a doctorate from Harvard, a master's in public health from Yale. You've published 18 papers in peer-reviewed journals on water sanitation and disease prevention. Uncle Henry looked up from his tablet. Your foundation's annual budget is larger than some small country's GDP. My mother was in tears. Crystal, sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? I replied, I tried. You weren't interested in the details. You just wanted to know if I had a real job. Lily finally found her voice. I called you unemployed, a loser. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I told her it was okay, that she was operating on incomplete information. My father said, we should have asked, we should have listened. I picked up the plate again. I wasn't doing this for your approval. I was doing it because 50 million people needed clean water more than I needed you to understand my career choices. As the evening went on, relatives started approaching me with requests. I deflected them politely, maintaining my boundaries. My mother pleaded with me not to leave. We need to talk about this properly. I told her we already had, and that the work was what mattered. Uncle Jack, the family patriarch, arrived late. He looked at me, then at the others with their phones, and at the TV still showing the news. Let me guess, you all spent the evening telling Crystal she was a failure, and now you've discovered she's more successful than everyone here combined. He walked up to me and said, Person of the Year. Your grandmother would be proud. I thanked him, admitting that the title helped with fundraising. Lily cornered me in the kitchen later. I don't know what to say. I told her not to say anything. We're not in competition. This wasn't a dramatic reveal. It's just reality. You thought I was a failure because that's what you needed to think to feel successful. As I drove home that night, my phone buzzed with messages from relatives. Some were apologetic, some were congratulatory, and some were confused. I knew I'd answer them in my own time. The work would continue, just as it always had. Whether my family understood or approved, the work was the point, and everything else was just commentary.